Take your Bibles, open to Hebrews chapter 11. We'll talk fast tonight, so we're not here till midnight. Anything before midnight's good. As Pastor mentioned, money is very important. Of course, we understand that one of the leading causes of divorce is issues with finances. You know, you got married and you wanted to see your wife, and relationship was good and she's beautiful, and you wanted to make it a permanent arrangement. Now when you see her coming, you don't see beauty, you see bounced checks. Okay, so if you can handle your finances right, you don't have to worry about that stuff, all right? But it's a problem. People have problems with their friends and their family because they don't know how to handle their money. A lot of people are under undue stress because they don't know how to handle money. And so we're going to talk tonight about resisting advertisements, being sucked in. Our financial stress so often is basically brought on by bad choices. The fact of the matter is, everything in life that goes wrong is usually brought on by bad choices. A lot of the principles we'll talk about tonight as we look at Genesis in a few minutes after we read Hebrews is basically you could apply it to sin or anything else. It all is right down the line. We make bad choices. So we need to be careful about that. Now let's look at Moses here in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 24, a man who rejected false treasure because he saw an eternal one. It says in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 24, by faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Of course, Moses displayed a lot of good characteristics in these verses we're going to read about making the right choice. First of all, you see here, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He denied that, although really that would have been personally profitable for him. But he had a greater understanding. He made the choice. It wasn't made on what was best for him. It was made on something different. In verse 25, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Now he has a comparison here. I can have the pleasures of sin if I stay in Egypt and I stay in Pharaoh's family, or I can suffer affliction with the people of God, which were really his people. And again, he made the proper choice. He compared and he made the right choice based on what was right, not what was convenient or what would have pleased him. Verse 26, esteeming, which simply means valuing, the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt. By the way, he could have had the treasures of Egypt. He was in that family. He was in that line. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. His choices were made basically not just on a personal, temporal level. His choices were made on a right, eternal level. He could have had everything that most people probably would look for in that day, but he chose not to have what God wanted him to have and to be what God wanted him to be. Most of our financial decisions, as we're going to look here in a minute, are brought on by what we would call impulse purchasing. You know, you get caught in the moment, and all of a sudden, you have to have it. And we bypass a bunch of things that should be in place to keep us from being like that. We want to get past impulse purchasing because that decision has far greater consequences. So why do you talk about money? Money can cause lots of problems. Lots of problems. Just bickering, bitterness between families. And simply because they bypass biblical principles. You know, borrowing from each other and this and that. Violating biblical principles. Putting pressure. You know, look, when you get married, I mean, it's great, but there are a lot of pressures that come along with that. You know, you think when you're dating and you're courting that, this is going to be a permanent arrangement. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great, just like when we're dating. And then all these outward pressures start applying themselves to your marriage. And if you don't handle them right, it starts to break away at it. And by the way, those are things that shouldn't break away at it. But we are impulsive. We make decisions. We make choices. We don't look and think through what we're doing. You know, we need to develop what is called sales resistance. I got this quote here. I think it's in the notes there, or a definition of sales resistant. Being content with food and clothing, using and caring for the possessions that we have, and keeping our focus on the purpose for which God made us. We get discontent. By the way, a person who's discontent is discontent no matter what they have. You could have $1. If you're discontent with $1, you'd be discontent with $1 million because it's your attitude. You're discontent. People's wants, I once taught an economics class in the high school. Brother Esposito was mad at me, so he had me teach that class. I actually enjoyed it. He wasn't mad at me, I'm kidding. But one of the principles of economics is that all of our wants are not infinite, but like infinite. I mean, all of our wants are just unlimited. But our resources are finite. And the principle of economics is applying our finite resources to our infinite wants. Now, we've kind of come around that with this thing called credit. We've expanded, and it expands all right. But we need to be content. Take care of the things we have. Focus on what God wants. So how do we get sucked in if we have sales resistance? Alluring advertising. By the way, advertising. John Castle, right over here, there's a picture of you on the bus stop. You seen that one? There's some advertisement right across the street from Subway, and it looks just like John Castle. I don't know what you've been doing in your spare time, but that was you. Some movie. I don't know what it was. But everybody's going by there. It's right by across the street from where the old Starbucks was. Like, that's John Castle. I don't know what he's selling, but I'm buying. Actually, if they put you up there, none of us would buy. Now, alluring advertising. What is that? Carefully planned appeals to our human weakness, designed to make us discontent with what we have so that we can rationalize buying things that we know we do not need and should not have. Now, what is the key there? And by the way, it's the same for sin because it's all alluring. Our human weakness, that's what they pick at. They don't sell you a product, they sell you a promise. Okay? You know, buy this floor wax and it'll clean your floor in half the time. Yeah, really. You know? Or get this diet kit. You can lose weight and eat anything you want and never have to exercise. By the way, the Atkins diet, look at Atkins diet. It's not a diet if you can eat bacon. Are you with me? Bacon and hamburgers, that's a diet. Count me in, by the way. You put it together, you get a bacon cheeseburger, amen? But the advertising is there. It appeals to our weakness so that all these other things take place we'll talk about in a minute. Now let's look here at some subtle tactics of advertising. By the way, the world's best salesman is Satan. Seriously. If Satan was a Christian and a discipler, the whole world would probably be saved. He makes anything look good. And so his tactics are for us in Genesis chapter 3, when he first got sin in the door. Let's read through it. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 to 6. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. By the way, if you're a salesman here, we love you, but salesmen are just... they're subtle. By the way, you can be a Christian salesman. Amen? I don't think so either. Okay. You can, because you can be a Christian lawyer. How many of you met David Gibbs? They're out there, few and far between. God just might bless honesty. So, no, don't buy that product. It's the worst thing in the world. Just kidding. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Look, can you believe? They had one rule. One. No rule book. Don't eat the fruit there. What if there was only one rule in this country? Speed limit. We'd all be guilty. Okay? One rule. And he picks right at it. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. By the way, God didn't say they couldn't touch it. Now, it probably was a good idea not to touch it. They probably could have played football with it. Hey, Adam, go out. You know, God didn't say you couldn't touch it. The principle he put, don't eat it. You can eat all the other stuff. You know, what do we focus in on? The one thing we don't have. We're worse than the kids in the nursery. They want the toy that they didn't presently have that the other kid now has. And the serpent said to the woman, ye shall not surely die. He had her now. I said, no, that's not true. Not true. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open. Here's the good points. And, ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. By the way, if you want to be a god, you can be a Mormon. They say you can be God. That wouldn't work out well for the people underneath us. But he says you could be just like God. And when the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave unto her husband. And he did eat. Got her first, passed it on to him. Now, we always blame the woman, right? We should. The Bible says she did it first, so there we go. But you know, she was deceived when Adam walked in with his eyes wide open. Okay, so at least she had that going for her. How's that whole childbirth thing going? All right, number one, let me give you some points. Here's how they get us. Number one, they use beautiful and successful appearing models. Pastor says models motivate. He's right. He's absolutely right. Okay? See, the serpent was more subtle. Before he was cursed, he must have been very charming and very sneaky. He looked good. By the way, don't salesmen. Hey, how you doing there? Lovely children. Man, they could look like a train wreck and they're going to say that. Okay? You know? But they always try to portray that this is something that all the beautiful people use. You notice they never show common or unappealing people using a product. I didn't say ugly. You notice that? You see, and it's hard, and you try to look the other way, but there's some beer advertisement, and there's a bunch of successful-looking guys, and I don't know if guys are beautiful because I really don't know that. You can ask Ryan, he'll tell you. You know, beautiful women. Look, that's not who's in bars drinking. That's not. That's not where the successful, beautiful people hang out. But they try to make it seem like, well, I got to be one of them. And this is what everybody's doing. This is what the smart person is doing. So if you're not doing it, then you're not smart. They always use the most successful and beautiful appearing models. You ever been to a restaurant? They'll have a menu, and they'll have a picture of the plate of food you're going to get. And it always looks good. And then they bring the plate to your table. It's like, man, that is not set up like that. And it looks different. You know, they got the picture of this huge steak, and it's like, what is this? Someone stole half of it on the way over here. Yeah. They're gonna make it look good. Look, by the way, Satan does that with sin. All the cool people are doing it. All the right people, all the beautiful people are doing it. Why aren't you doing it? You must be some kind of fuddy-duddy. Always makes it look good. It looks like all the people in the know are there. Satan's very, very tricky. Don't be fooled by it. Number two, we got a lot of points. I really got to hurry. They appeal directly to one in the family in order to put pressure on the other. And he said unto the woman, I'm not going to bang on her because, she's the woman. We could, but I won't. But he noticed he didn't wait till they were together and said, hey, 2 for 1 special. What did he do? He got her. Her husband wasn't around. It's like, let's get her first because he knows the power of a woman. By the way, let me say something, women. You could get your husband to do anything you want him to do. We're pretty easy. I'm dead serious. Oh, my husband won't do anything. You ain't trying. Come home like, wow, you looks like your hair's coming in. Let me check that thing out there, Got your favorite meal prepared. Sit down and take it easy. It's like, here, let me just give you the credit card now. Go. Do what you want. It's all good. Okay? The way to get it is to argue anyhow, but he goes to Eve and he gets Eve all messed up. Why? Because he's going to play Eve against Adam. And so what did Eve did after she ate the fruit? She went to him and said, you got to get in on this. Now look, he didn't have anywhere else to go. There was only 2 of them. Okay? You know what I'm saying? He wasn't going to run and say, I'm going to my mom's house. He didn't have a mom. He did have God, but he didn't think that one through. So she puts pressure on him. Do you understand that's how it works usually? Somebody in the family usually does something financially irresponsible or pressures the other one into doing it. Now, guys and girls, men and women, we're different. We can both kill our budgets. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss there. Budget's usually a dirty word in church, right? Here's what women do. They go buy a bunch of small things because they're on sale. Now, it's things they didn't need, and they saved $30. Of course, if they wouldn't have bought it, they could have saved the whole thing. It's like, but we don't need one. But it was on sale. I saved $30, but we didn't need it. But it was on sale. Now, men, we're different. We don't do that. Exactly. We come home and say, you know what? God led me to buy a boat. As in the days of Noah, it could start raining anytime. Okay? And it's like, ladies kind of just, little shots at the ship. Men, we torpedo it in the middle, it splits in half, and it's sunk. Okay? And so we're killing each other. But sometimes we make that decision, and now we're bringing it on the other person, and we're forcing them into it, or we're pressuring them into it. Salesmen get that. I remember many years ago, when I was still working in the early days of church, I was working in Ingram Paper, and I worked 3rd shift, and some guy was doing some meat. My wife had a consultation. I had to go work early that day, so he's there, and he's talking to her about this meat deal, so I left for work, and he did a really good job while I was gone, and he talked her into the fact that, you buy X number of dollars of meat every month, why don't you just have me bring it once a month? Save you a trip to the store. And it sounded good to her, and it's like, oh, by the way, you need a freezer. We don't have a freezer. Just so happens we sell them. And so she bought I don't know, I think it was like maybe $1,000, but they were going to let us make payments. Nice guy. And so I do remember very distinctly, it was a Friday. It was the last day of work. So I get home early Saturday morning, worked all night. She's there, honey, got to tell you what we got here. We bought some meat. And she gave me his little spiel, and I'm like, you're killing me here. First of all, we can buy meat cheaper, and we may not need all that. We can't even choose what cuts we get. And then she goes, by the way, got a freezer for the meat. I'm like, let me see the contract. And I saw the contract, and I'm like, sister, did you do the math? That $1,000 meat thing is going to cost us like $3,000 when we're done paying for it. So I'm like, give me the phone. And I called the little salesman. I said, we have 3 days to change our mind. I know the law. We ain't getting it. Rip up the contract right now. Oh, but you don't know. Let me come by and talk. Stop. I ain't talking to you. Okay, I could already hear him. Like Satan, It's like my wife already tried to get me to eat the fruit out of the freezer. We're not going there. By the way, she thought she was making a good deal, and it all made sense until you read the fine print. And then it don't make sense. But we do that. See, Particularly in a family, husband and wives, you need to be together on the finances. You need to be in agreement. Okay? Don't do the small nitpicking stuff, ladies, and men, don't torpedo it. You know, we have, by the way, you know, some couples, and maybe you have separate accounts. Well, I don't think you should have separate accounts. Aren't you one person? You know, and the same thing here, it says, and God called their name Adam. Together. Okay? We're one. Our accounts ought to be one. We're one family. Not you're paying your half and I'm paying my half. No. We're a family. We work together here, don't we? We go behind the other's back. Oh, maybe he won't find out I bought this. You know, I do the finances at our house, and I do them once a week, and then I get online, and sometimes there's a receipt there, and I'm like, I don't even know, what's this? Hey, Alma, come here. What is this? I just want to know what it is. I got to document it, but we need to work together. And sneaking behind just causes all kinds of friction. All kinds of, you don't know what's going on. Look, work together. Satan tries to get one against the other. One against the other. One pressures the other one into a bad decision. Number 3, they create doubts about established rules. We really got to hurry. And hath God said, ye shall eat of every tree of the garden? Hey, did God really say that? Adam and Eve had only one rule to keep, and Satan was able fairly quickly to drive a wedge between them and that one rule. It's amazing. Most products nowadays are sold with attitude. You know, rebellion sells. You know, don't do like everybody else. Don't be like the establishment. You know, don't do. Man, this will make you cool. You know, it'll make you cool and different, just like everybody else. You're unique, like everybody else in the world. You know, the thing, look, and I think it's goofy. I didn't see anybody here, but wearing their pants down to like halfway. Seriously. And then you wonder why you can't get a job. I don't know. What do you think? You know, somebody one day got an idea like, I'm going to be different and cool. I'm going to just, you know, put the belt. Make sure you do your laundry really well. But, you know, they got their little thing here and their pants are hanging, and someone else, I want to be just like that. That's cool. That's different. And now they all do it. And they sell products with rebellion. This is different. This is not what everybody else does. Really? And they're trying to sell it to everybody. But it's almost like some things are sold with a sinful attitude. That's just kind of how our society is, rebellion. One time I did a funeral for somebody. You came to our church, and their sister died, and wanted me to do the funeral. And I did everything, and at the end, I didn't know this. They said, you know, we're going to play a song that she liked. And, you know, they put it on there. It was Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way. Now, look, when I die, I don't want to play that to God. I did it my way. Not a good idea. Okay? Not a good idea. I did it your way. That would be better. But attitude. They pick away at the rules. Oh, come on. This is the new thing. This is the cool thing. Who cares what that's right and wrong? That's why we dress so immodestly, by the way, too. Number 4, they put pressure on you to reject warnings. What does he say to her? Ye shall not surely die. By the way, God already told him what the punishment was. Said, you will die. There it is. So he said, nah, that's not going to happen. You're not going to die. You know what we think? We think that consequences are things that only happen to others. Now, I've heard of people that have made bad choices in their finances and everything turns out bad. But after all, I'm different. I know you're different, just like everybody else. Okay? You're not different. You can't violate principles and get away from it. You violate very sound financial principles, and you're buying a bunch of things you don't have money for. Look, we're not the government. We can't just keep printing up money. You can, but you might get busted. Okay? It's called counterfeiting. Now, the government does it. It's called meeting budget. Okay? You know? Yeah. It's called new paper. I'd like to see all that gold that's backing it up. Yeah, it is. But we don't get away with it. It's like the smoker that thinks, I can smoke and I'm not going to get cancer until the day the doctor calls them. Okay? we just think we can reject these warnings. We keep using our credit and getting deeper into debt, but we don't think it'll catch up to us. It's going to catch up to us. Quit soothing your conscience. Start making the hard decisions now. You got to look at those things because debt is killing families. Number 5, they create discontentment in your spirit. He told her, he said, for God doth know in the day that you eat thereof that your eyes shall be open. Hey, God's holding back on you. I mean, if you eat this fruit, your eyes are going to be open. You're going to know some things that God's not allowing you to know right now. Something that you need. And we get discontent. Look, they had everything they needed. He was able to deceive Eve by convincing her that the one thing God said they couldn't do was the very thing that they were missing out on. Isn't that how we are? The things, we're not missing out on things by following Scripture. I'm sorry, yes we are. We're missing out on pain, agony, misery. Yeah, we're missing those things. But that's okay. But Satan picks at that. Oh, come on. You sure? This will make a big difference. It'll make a difference when financially you're going down. So what does advertising? It focuses on convincing you that what they have is what you need, and everything you have does not match up. And so what do? We pull out our, be careful, someone actually stole my number. I don't know how. We pull out our credit card. I don't have one. I have one, but it's Kohl's. I don't use it. But 20+%. You pull it out, 20+%. Think about that for a minute. We don't think about that. Is it really 20+%? It is. Look, you want to get scared? Many years ago when we were a young couple, our car kept breaking down, and I didn't have any money, and I had a credit card. I thought, I'm going to get my car fixed on this. It was like $900. And I thought, that's all I'm going to put on there, and I'm going to pay it off. And I was paying it off a little at a time. And a year and a half later, I said, man, I got to check out that bill. This thing's got to be done. I owed just about as much as I did a year and a half earlier. I thought, somebody here is dumb. Me, I guess. So I thought, I got to kill that thing. Okay, interest will kill you. And you think, I got to have that thing. And you throw that 20% interest and you're killing yourself. You break your budget. You see, some people, they think they can't tithe because all their money is tied up in their debt. They can't, by the way, they won't be able to give the building this year because they've blown up their budget. And they have so much debt, they feel they can't give. What we need to do is stop and step back and start cleaning that up. You need to take steps to get that thing cleared out. First, cut all your credit cards up. I know there's some credit cards that we use. I think maybe one. I think it is when they go to Kohl's, they get a discount. We pay it off. If we use it every month, it's paid off. And before we use it, we know that the stuff that we're buying, the money's in the bank already. We don't pay a penny of interest. All the other ones we used to have, cut them up. Long time ago. Why? Because we don't want to get killed on that. Okay? Interest is bad math. It's really bad math. Okay? Robert talked about the power of compound interest in the negative. It's bad. Number 6. Let me just hustle here. They prompt you by promoting an independent spirit. Ye shall be as gods. Come on, Eve. No one will tell you what to do. Because they want you to make that decision. Just jump in there and don't think about what makes common sense or what would my spouse think about this or I'm just going to do what I think is best. After all, I deserve it. We're like Pinocchio. He thought he knew better, and he became a donkey. Okay? That's how we are. We just get ourselves into trouble because we get that independent spirit. We don't think things through. Number 7, you think you only need to depend on human reasoning. He said, you'll be like gods, knowing good and evil. You know what knowing means? It means deciding. Satan's lie was, and by the way, his lie has always been this, and it always will be this. You decide what's right and what's wrong. Don't let God tell you what to do. That's it right there. That's always what it's been. If you meet someone who's a Satanist, they're not sacrificing kittens in a pentagram. A Satanist that understands what they believe is basically whatever you believe that's best for you, that's what you believe. Don't let anybody else tell you any different. That's Satanism in its core. And that's how we live our lives financially. You see, and by the way, that's a horrible way to live based on what I know only. I don't know much. We make many, many decisions that are bad. How many people have made bad decisions? It's like, well, at the time it seemed like a good idea. Well, I just thought that this would be the best thing because you got sucked into all the advertisement, all the thing, and boom, boom, and it's like afterwards it's too late. You already made a bad decision. And now you're going to be paying for it for years and years and years. Number 8, they get you to override caution by the promise of meeting a need. Okay, now Satan throws all this stuff at her, like this is a bunch of junk. What, you need this? And then she looks and says, the tree, it does look good for food. And after all, everybody's got to eat. Look, everybody's got to eat. That doesn't mean we all need to go to Morton Steakhouse. Okay, unless Brother Beck's paying. And it's like, well, this is a basic need I have anyhow. And then we indulge when we really don't need to. We feel like we need it. Number 9, they make it appealing to the lust of the eye, and that it was pleasant to the eyes. Now, here's the sad thing. When we get to this part where we're so confused and we're making our own decisions without consulting God, without thinking about basic, sound, economical structure, budget, now we're living life based on our own human senses. That's a punishment. I don't want to live my life based on only what I can sense, only what I can see apart from God, because I can't see much and I don't know much. Most people today live their life based on their own reasoning and their own senses. Well, I saw it and I thought it looked good. La-di-da. You might want to get some counsel about that. You might want to take some time and think it through, because we don't see everything. It's appealing to the eye. Some things, it's funny, we get scammed. They have these new things that have been around for a few years, these payday advance. Do you understand the interest a person pays on payday advance? It's like, what is it, 20% or $20 on $400? Or I think it's $20 on $200. Compute that for a whole year. That's 1 week. That's like 500-600% interest. Now, that's a good deal for the guy at the payday store. And then here's what happens. So your paycheck comes on Friday. You go get a loan on Wednesday and pay 600% interest. And then now the next check comes a week from Friday. So now you're not 7 days away. You're 9 days away. So now you're farther in the hole. I lost some of you. That's okay. Number 10, they offer fulfillment apart from God. A tree to be desired to make one wise. Now look at. Do you understand that Adam and Eve walked daily with God personally? I mean, he was like right there talking to them. If they had any questions, I have a sneaking suspicion they could have asked him. And yet here they are talking, God's right there, and Satan still tricked them to think that that's not enough. This will make, a fruit off a tree will make you wise? Really? And the one who created me can't teach me wisdom? Well, I need more. I need more. Here's the problem with money. Money was never designed to give you happiness. Money was never designed to give you fulfillment. Money was never designed to make your life wonderful. All those things which are intrinsic come from God. That's why those that live for money and sometimes are successful and accumulate money come to the realization it's not enough. Because they were seeking from money that which money does not give. That's what God gives. And so they're disillusioned. Is that all there is to this life? Yes, if you're worshiping money. That's really what idol worship is. It's trying to get from something that's which only comes from God. Okay? So money doesn't get it. Money is a great servant, but it's a terrible master. And it's a very strong fulfillment. When I used to work for my dad, he had an auto electric shop. We used to rebuild alternators, generators, and starters. Sometimes we'd take apart these old things, and they were rusted. And I'm like, I've got this thing here, and I'm using this tool to kind of bang on another tool, and I got a screwdriver to kind of get to the bolt. And he'd come in and say, son, that screwdriver was not designed to be a pick. Use it for a screwdriver and get something else that was designed to be a pick. Use the tool for what it was designed for. Okay? And I listened to him until he walked away. Then I just got the WD-40 and used it, bang it anyhow. But that's how money is. We use it for what it's not designed for. Here's a good one. They used misleading phrases. Satan got Eve with 3 phrases, 3 sentences. That's all it took. 3. All these advertising, they come up with, what's Burger King? Have it your way. You ain't going to have it your way. This. And we fall for some little phrase that's like, wow, that's right. Green burrito, it's neato. That makes me hungry. Don't fall for buzzwords. Promises. Next, they deny the product's weakest point. He said, ye shall not surely die. Then he also said, ye shall be as gods. Both of those are half-truths. They didn't die physically, but they did die spiritually. And they were like gods, making their own decisions, but they were not God. Okay? They did not, look, there was a lot of punishment coming. Why? Because they didn't listen. What were the punishments? Let me give you 4 real quick and we're done. What are the consequences of following this advertising, get ourselves in this financial debt when we buy the lie? Number 1, the lives of others are damaged. She took of the fruit and gave all to her husband with her. Now, I'm not getting on her because he probably should have been there taking care of her, and he should have known better, but she did put pressure on him, and they both were affected by it. Either way, even if he did not eat the fruit, he still would have been adversely affected by the fact that she was now a sinner. Okay? Our bad financial decisions can strap and hurt us. Hurts our family because now we can't tithe. Our kids can't come to Christian school because we're so far in debt we can't afford it. Okay? Things like that. There's constant pressures in the home because, and again, you may have to live paycheck to paycheck, but if there's undue pressure there because you put yourself in a large amount of debt, and then you got people calling you. All this pressure, and it affects your whole family because you may have made some unwise decision. Number 2, the loss is usually irrevocable. The eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. It was over. There was a whole new way to live because they were now sinners. That was irrevocable. We cause damage sometimes in our life based by not just sinful decisions, but based on financial decisions that can mess us up for a long, long time. By the way, be very careful. They give the college kids, you get in there and yet taking loans out. When I graduate, I'm going to get all this money. No, what? You start life with a hole. They give credit cards to kids out of high school. When I moved to California in '87 and we were in our mid-20s, we couldn't get a credit card because we had never bought anything on credit. They wouldn't give us a credit card. They would not give us a credit card. Now they'll give it to anybody. And you're young and you're youthful and you get that and you are really setting yourself up for a problem. You're going to go into that new marriage with all kinds of financial pressure. Now, if you're here and I'm not getting, and you have some financial pressure, you need to start working on it. This isn't condemnation. This is like, hey, let's wake up. Okay? And say, let's get rid of the credit cards, let's make plans, and let's start working on it. And pray that God helps us as we make wise financial decisions. Number 3, there's blame and justification. God said, okay, what happened? And the man said, the woman. God, I wasn't going to eat it, but it's what she made for dinner, I had no choice. And he said, oh, wait a minute, God, the woman, I believe, didn't you give her to me? Yeah, that's the one you gave me. I didn't get to shop. There was no, courtship. It was like I took a nap one day and boom, there she was. No choice in the matter. And then the woman, she's a little She's a little more spiritual about it. Well, Lord, I'd never blame you. I'd never blame the fact that my husband was lazy and wasn't around. But you know, the devil, he got me. He is so spiritually strong. We start blaming. That's where fights come in. All kinds of financial pressure. Well, if you just didn't go see your mother-in-law or your kids, well, you know, that's like ding, ding, ding. Then we come to pastor's office and we ask him to put on the referee outfit. Okay? When it's like, why don't we just step back, quit the blame game, and work on making changes? That's what you need to do. We keep getting into trouble because we quit taking personal responsibility, and when we do that, then the problem can't be fixed because it can only be fixed with personal responsibility. That was a mouthful. Number 4, the difficulty of life increases. I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. That was for Eve. In the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread. That was for Adam. Someone says, how can difficulty of life, how can debt cause that? You've never been in debt. Okay? It causes all kinds of problems. The point is, we need to learn, look, money needs an authority. And the authority needs to be your budget. Say, well, I think I need to buy this. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you have money in your budget for it? If you don't, it's probably a good idea just to say no. Instead of pulling out a credit card that's going to take 20% on you and cost you way more than you would have thought. Pastor.